So we'll start with Geoff. Do you want to introduce your program?
Good afternoon. My name is Geoff Holden. I was one of the many unemployed British graduates who were sent out to Sudan or taken to Sudan during the New Mary years from 1975 till 1988. There's a kind of full circle to my being here today, because among my many pupils in my classes of up to 80 pupils was Munzul, who you saw at the start of today, who's one of my pupils at Darfur Secondary School in Fasher. I spent 4 years in Sudan, in Kasla, Tuaim and Fasher. What you're about to listen to is something that I just felt I had to do in the days after the 15th of April. Initially, and you'll see when it comes up, it says in the style of From Our Own Correspondent, because I felt that this was where it should go in terms of an outsider reflecting on what I feel is the real Sudan. But how I would actually call it, what I call it now, and it'll become fairly clear from when it starts, is it is my duty to look after you. From Our Own Correspondent. One of the many things I learnt early on in my time in Sudan in the 1980s was the saying, "You are a stranger in my country, and it is my duty to look after you." It was something that the Sudanese took very seriously, sometimes almost too seriously, as what would begin as an invitation for tea would become, "Stay for supper, stay the night, stay until next week for my sister's wedding." This duty of care is no doubt being extended right now, and in some cases at great personal cost, to the Khawajas who remain stuck in Khartoum amid the fighting between the army and the RSF. Khawaja is what I was in my 4 years working as a teacher in government high schools in Kasla, a city in the east on the border with what is now Eritrea, Duaim, a quiet town on the White Nile, and Fasher in Darfur, then a part of the world few had heard of. In fact, even many Sudanese regarded it as beyond the pale, as a fellow British English teacher was told, "I am very sorry for you," when he revealed his posting to a fellow passenger on the flight from London. Khawaja, originally a Turkish word from the time when Egypt ruled Sudan in the name of the Ottoman Empire, means foreigner, and was generally applied to anyone with a light skin, or, such was the Sudanese sense of humour, anyone who was punctual. It was shouted at you in the street by passing children. It was used to get your attention, but it was almost always used as a friendly curiosity. Not that my students ever called me that. To them, I was Mr. Jif, or Ustaz, a term of respect I feel honoured to have been given. Even when I learnt enough Arabic to say I am a teacher, Ana Mudaris, the people I was travelling with on the back of a lorry would always decide that I was nonetheless Ustaz. Being a Khawaja in Sudan was to be in a very privileged position, because the duty of care was acted upon by so many. When I turned up one evening at Al Abeid, the main city in Kordofan in western Sudan, and a place I had never been to before, looking for the English teacher's house, a taxi driver took me to the teacher's rest house for free, where the Sudanese teachers fed me, gave me a bed, and, only very reluctantly, let me go to find my friends the next day. These acts of kindness were part of everyday life, as new teachers soon discovered on arrival in the sweltering heat of early rainy season Khartoum. Wandering the streets, we were at first suspicious of offers of help, as our British minds could only think, what do they want? However, we soon learned that these offers were genuine, and that we needed to be careful what we asked for. Tea stalls are a feature of Sudanese street life. Here, a woman would sit with a large kettle on a charcoal-burning cooker called a canoe, surrounded by small square stools known as bambas, and sell bitter tea in small glasses, made drinkable with heaped teaspoonfuls of sugar. When we asked a passing stranger where to find one, our newly found friend not only took us to a tea stall, but before we could stop him, or even thank him, he had paid for our tea and disappeared. Such small but at the same time massive acts of generosity were woven into the thread of our time in the land of the two Niles. When I decided to take the train to my first posting in Kassala, I had no idea how long it would take, but prepared myself for the journey by buying expensive cake and some bananas. With my second-class train ticket, I settled down in the corner of the compartment for the beginning of what turned out to be a long, slow journey. We pulled out of Khartoum station at around 2 o'clock, and by sunset we had just about reached Medni. As the light dimmed and one of the guards came through the train putting light bulbs in the sockets, one of my fellow passengers produced a large cardboard box full of food, which included a whole cooked chicken. Turned the box upside down to make a table, and whilst the other passengers provided bags of bread and boiled eggs, I was invited to join a meal to which I had, as yet, contributed nothing. This hospitality extended throughout the journey, and by midday the following day we had reached Gadaref, where the train paused for Friday prayers. By then my only companions were Adam and his young son, and while Adam went to the mosque to pray, I thought it was about time I fed myself, and bought from a lady on the platform a bowl of fool, the black beans which are a staple of the Sudanese diet. However, on my return to the carriage I found Adam's son gesturing to a meat sandwich wrapped in newspaper. Despite my no longer being hungry, I knew it was my duty to eat the lunch he had provided. Meat does not keep well in extreme heat. The consequence was a rush to the toilet the next morning when I woke for the first time in Kassala, having spent the night in a cheap hotel which consisted simply of rows of beds in a courtyard. During my 4 years in Sudan I never felt in any danger. I just knew that I would be cared for, and in my own small way I tried to do the same, though I never did succeed in paying for someone else's meal until I met one of my former pupils in Durham last year. The humanity that I was shown time and time again even extended to my taking part in Friday prayers in a village I used to regularly visit. My friend Abdullah told me that I was going to the mosque, got me to wash myself in the correct way, and instructed me to say that if asked, I was a convert. However, once the prayers were completed, my participation being limited to following everyone else's movements, I joined all the men of the village on mats laid on the ground outside the mosque for a meal given to celebrate a recovery from illness. No one was under any illusion that I was a convert. Instead, I was quizzed on the differences and similarities with a Christian service. Never in all my life, before or since, have I felt as welcome or as safe or as sure of, "You are a stranger in my country, and it is my duty to look after you."
Jeff, thank you very much indeed for coming all the way to participate and to attend this very important session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.